with with preaching truth, right? They see it as, man, this man is speaking, right? He's speaking something. He's speaking something, and people are turned off by it. People don't want to hear it, right? But people speak all the time, right? Blessed morning, blessed morning. Man, the Lord is good and He's gracious. The Lord is good. The Lord is gracious and faithful. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. John 14:6. To those who have ears to hear, let them hear. It's amazing how those that are speaking say that something's wrong with me. They think something's wrong with with preaching truth, right? They see it as, man, this man is speaking, right? He's speaking something. He's speaking something, and people are turned off by it. People don't want to hear it, right? But people speak all the time, right? People speak all the time about things, right? People talk about basketball. They talk about basketball. That's why on ESPN they have First Take, right? They have First Take, and they have Stephen A. Smith talking. They have Stephen A. Smith talking on First Take, along with other analysts, and they talk about basketball. And many people make judgments based off what they're talking about. Right? They talk about different players, um, superstar players, role players. They talk about all those things, and they make certain statements, right? And they talk freely. They talk freely, but many people disagree with them about certain things, right? They disagree about who's the star player going to be this year for the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? James Harden or Donovan Mitchell, right? Who's going to be the star player? And they make certain judgments, even with football. Who's gonna win the Super Bowl this year? The Seahawks won it last year, or this past year, and then um, now we gotta, they're gonna be first take. Whoever all these platforms who speak about sports, they make certain judgments and statements based off of sports, right? And so we all have free will to speak on what we talk about, right? Right. If someone wants to go and speak about uh, it could be food, making certain judgments on foods, the 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 best fast food restaurant, they have the free will choice to do that, right? So we all have free will to speak whatever we have. We have tongues. We have tongues to speak. We have tongues to make certain judgments, right? Judging is not necessarily it's not a sin unless you're a hypocrite. Unless you're telling someone to stop doing something and you're doing the same thing that they're doing, that's wicked. If you're partying at the club and you go tell the next man, what are you doing? But you had went to the club at 3 a.m. the recent night. You're a hypocrite. You're judging somebody and you're doing the same thing, right? So when people say uh, you're not allowed to judge, or you're not allowed to make this certain statement, like, do we not have free will to speak what we please? Don't you have free will to curse? Don't you have free will to curse word, to 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 speak unrighteousness? Don't we all d- doesn't even the world make judgments on certain things? So how is it when the gospel is preached that people hate it, that people don't want to hear it, and they think is strange when someone preaches the gospel, the true gospel? They don't want to hear it. So how is it that the world can make statements, the world can proclaim unrighteousness, that the world can proclaim LGBTQ, right? They proclaim Pride Month and the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month, to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it. They proclaim it on the billboards. They proclaim it in the streets. Unrighteousness. So how is it that one can't speak righteousness? How is it one that how are they to say that you man, this man is crazy. This man, to the Christian, you're you're making the wrong statements. How is it that you can tell the man that he can't speak he can't speak the truth? Because the gospel says, uh, go into all the world and preach the gospel to the whole creation. That's what Jesus said to his disciples. He said, go and preach the gospel to the whole creation. Don't doesn't the world don't we see in the world that people preach what they believe all the time? People believe in and they make they hold their big signs up about LGBTQ. They hold their signs up about how abortion is right, right? Don't they preach these things? Don't they preach come get a car wash at Jack's car wash? So how is it that the Christian is it's a it's a burden to preach the truth? That's because the devil is 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 clearly working in these people to stop the truth. To those who don't who turn who turn and say you're not stop talking, stop preaching. But don't you have free will to leave? Don't you have free will to go and not listen? Don't you have free will to not listen to certain music because you don't like it? You turn the music on and man, I really just don't like that song. I gotta turn it off because I don't want to listen to it. Don't you have free will to choose that? Don't you have free will to turn away? So why is it when the Christians preaching truth, the truth of the gospel, that people don't like it? That people don't want to hear it? It's because the Bible is true. It's because they deny the fact that Jesus Christ is 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 the one that they hate. They hate Jesus. They hate the one who made them. They hate the one uh who gave them food on their plates. Who made them to have a house over their heads. They hate Jesus Christ, the one who is merciful, the one who gives grace to the humble, but he resists the proud. That's 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 uh that's the God that they hate, and that's why they don't want to hear it. Because if they love God, they would hear His words. If they love God, they will come to the knowledge of truth. So people preach things all the time. It's the world we live in. People preach what they want to preach all the time. If they want to preach a false doctrine, they're going to do it. They say, come in. All are welcome. All are welcome to come in. We preach this. We preach once saved, always saved. We preach that it don't matter that what you do. Churches, that's it's churches. It's in many churches that say this. Right? We all have we all in this world make judgments, make statements, whether they be true or a lie. But it's because people are convicted. People are convicted at the truth. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good.
That's what it was. I was muted. Thank you. I'm just now seeing that you said I'm muted. So let me start. Let me start the intro all over again then, since I was muted. Yo, what it do, newbies? You are not in the wrong place. Don't let the beginning of this episode fool you. You are, of course, at the Life Be Life and podcast, hosted by none other than your favorite fat freckle man, your favorite coach's favorite coach, the big dog himself. Who? Yes, again, this is the Life Be Life and podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My apologies for not realizing I wasn't off mute. Um, but to start out, since I'm doing live reactions with you guys tonight, I figured that I would just lead off because I'm not going to assume that everybody knows who Jay Ivey is. I'm not going to assume that everybody watches basketball. I'm not going to assume that everybody's tapped into the controversy behind his words and behind some of his current statements. So I figured it'd be best to just let one of the videos play to start the video and give you guys a sense of where he was going. He said some other things as well, as far as calling out who he felt was fake Christians, such as Steph Curry. Um, these comments, did indeed lead to the team that employed him, the Chicago Bulls, to unemploy him. They fired him. They waived him. He will be getting the entire 10 million of his contract, even though he was waived. But he is currently now without a job. So there is there ton of controversy about what he said, people's reactions to what he said, the team and the NBA's reaction to what he said, and yeah, that's kind of, I guess, what it is. So, um, as a person who runs this channel, this podcast, this entity known as Life Be Life, I've made a very, very clear decision about not making the podcast about politics or about religion, or not being heavy in either aspect. And I don't want you guys to think that I'm changing up because it's I guess convenient or anything like that. But in order to have the conversation about Jaden Ivey's comments and how people are reacting to him, we are going to have to delve into some aspects of Christian religion. And I'm not one who shies away from my level of spirituality. Um, However, like I said, I don't like the same way I don't shy away from what I believe politically, but I generally don't like to have public conversations um, about either, because people get real stupid. I just don't have a nicer way to say it. People get real stupid about it. It causes too much division, and that's not what I want to do. So, um, hopefully, you caught some of what he said earlier, at least a little bit. Tommy Girl said, I get what he was trying to say, but it's misguided. Saying that people don't know God because they sin isn't what the word said. It absolutely isn't. So let's start there. In fact, I guess I should give you the backdrop on Jaden Ivey, just to keep it real, real simple. Uh, Young man, I think fourth, maybe fifth year, uh, out of um, out of college. I believe he was at Purdue. Um, Very talented young man, very athletic young man. That's was the key, a big key of excuse me, a big key of his game. Was lightning speed, very good athleticism for somebody playing the smaller position of point guard. So he went to the draft, drafted by the Detroit Pistons, and they saw him as a potential key, and then they drafted another young star in the making, or who they believe would be a star in the making. And they was really right about this guy, Cade Cunningham. So then they kind of like, okay, well, a lot is on Cade. We need somebody to, draft. We need somebody. In fact, I think they drafted Cade first. I'm wrong. They drafted Cade first. And then they needed somebody to be his running mate, because once they saw how good Cade was going to be while he was healthy, it's like, okay, he needs help. He needs somebody else who can, help him, uh, as far as guard play. Jaden Ivey was one of the guys that they drafted for that potential possibility. Now he's dealt with injury problems throughout his career. He's also dealt with, kind of inconsistent play, but it was starting to trend upwards. Unfortunately, during the game against the Orlando Magic this season, He was going to make a move, stepped on another player from Orlando Magic, Cole Anthony, landed on his foot, and had a catastrophic injury. Um, was it the Achilles or was it the ACL? I'm not entirely. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. But it was season-ending injury. That's it. Done. Donezo. Um, and that wasn't this year. I'm sorry. That was last year. So he tried to make his way back from that. What was it? Again, I'm sorry, I messed up the timeline because it's kind of like a season and a half ago. So he made his way back from that injury. Um, but you could tell his game wasn't the same this year when you saw him. He lacked the explosiveness, the kind of stuff that would happen if you have a serious injury to your ACL or to your Achilles. Having to come back and play after that, it's really hard to play at the same level, especially when your game is built on athleticism, fast twitch movements, explosiveness out of, kind of standing still. Um, so, unfortunately, the Pistons realized that wasn't going to be their guy of the future. They sent him over they traded him to Chicago, who needed some more young guards, some more youth, some more excitement. And they was kind of hoping that, he would kind of shape out for them. He hasn't played great for them. It hasn't been super terrible. It hasn't been great, whatever. He had another injury that took him off the floor. Um, So he's supposed to be at the current time, he's supposed to be rehabbing that. One of the things that when they asked him about, how is he adjusting to life post a major injury, he said, the old JI is dead. I have to find who I can be now as a player. Because I know I don't have that level of explosiveness and athleticism anymore. So now it's about finding out who I could be now. And I can respect that. As somebody towards Achilles himself and was never that level of athletic or explosive and never that good, I can just say it definitely changes, you being able to do things that your mind remembers how to do, but your body doesn't. Um, so here he was supposed to be rehabbing. He was at the gym and he decides he wants to start sharing his, religious and theological beliefs. He starts having conversations he starts mentioning stuff while he's at the training facility. As you can see, he's mentioning stuff in his car. He was doing I guess what, I don't even know if I'm going to say a Bible study, but this same kind of conversation he was having at his home. However, after what I started off the episode with, the Bulls released him. Um, well, actually, I think it was actually, yeah. So the Bulls released him. So it kind of would, they released him. The exact reason was conduct detrimental to the team. So I guess the heart of the conversation comes down to uh, perceived religious persecution, freedom of speech, and I guess what's considered appropriate or inappropriate. So let's start with, again, let's kind of get it out the way. So he mentioned several things, some biblically correct, some biblically incorrect. Again, this is not going to turn into a Bible study tonight. So I'm not here to sit here and pick apart every single thing. I've watched multiple of his lives, not just this one. I've watched multiple of his lives. In some lives, um, the one thing I find in common in most of the lives is that he has a certain he's talking with a certain urgency of trying to get you to see things his way, right? But it's also, how do I put it? I think the reason why some people think that he's crazy is because it's all kind of like this level, right? Urgent, but not really a level of excitement, not really a level of passion, not really a level of uh joy, not really a level of, I can't wait to share all this with you because it's a good thing. Um and a lot of times we have experienced, even in churches or even outside on the corner, the person, okay, we've seen what we refer to as the hoteps, the Hebrew Israelites out there on the corners with they, gaudy gear on and a big microphone. Uh Pause. And the dude out there reading from the scripture while the other guy interprets it, and he said, he's out there interpreting whatever the scripture says, and then he says, read, and the dude starts reading from the book. We've all seen it. We've all seen it. And we don't take it seriously. Not them, not the televangelist preaching fire and brimstone, not the person at church up there spending all the sermon on the gays. Um, we don't take them seriously for the most part. We a lot of people will not to take them seriously. Excuse me. I can't say we take them seriously because at the end of the day, you have mega churches, you have cults, you have churches that actually survive on people believing on these things. But I will say that people these this is why there's a certain level of skepticism around Jaden Ivey. One, because this wasn't his whole kick the whole way along. For all the times years he was in the NBA before now, you wasn't getting it like this from him. But according to him, there's been a change. However, it seems like the change is probably based around, injury, uh, his inability to stay on the court, because when he was playing and he was on the court, he wasn't hearing about the word of God, right? So that kind of tends to add uh a level of discredit, because it seems like you're having a mental break because you can't play basketball the way you want to, because you're not having success at basketball the way that you previously were. So now, because we always know that when things go bad for people find religion. You know what I'm saying? And that could be a good or a bad thing, because sometimes people just find religion. They don't find the the higher being, right? They don't find the spirituality. They don't find the connection. They find religion. And the problem with religion is the practice, right? Religion is the rules. Religion is the don't do this, do this. But religion isn't the love. Religion isn't, as I said, the connection. Religion isn't the bond that this is why I live this way, is because this way of life matters to me. It makes me whole. It brings me joy. It keeps me safe. It provides for me, right? That's where you get to where you hear people say, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Yeah, because and I think to a certain extent, religion is important because, again, like I said, religion is a practice. No matter how you feel about religion as a broad term, if you want to be successful at anything, you have to have practices, you have to have rules, you have to have traits that, things you go to in these certain times that produces the success rates, right? Um, Disciplines, right? So to a degree, religion has its place in trying to live a spiritual life, because you can't just say, well, I believe in the spiritual being or I believe in a higher power, and then you don't do anything to reinforce that belief. You don't do anything that necessarily shows that belief. You have to kind of move in a way where it makes sense, right? Like if you for example, I could say I'm the best podcaster, But if you don't see me on podcasts, if you see me on a podcast maybe once every other month, you're not going to be convinced. You know what I mean? If I don't have a logo, if I'm not confident in my content, you know what I'm saying? And there's things that you have to do to be confident in your content. There's things you have to do to, sorry, I don't know where that sound came from. There's things you have to do, you know, in order to, don't pass to me. Don't do that. There's things. Oh, the joint sounded a little louder in my ears than normal. The notifications that threw me off for a second. But you know what I'm saying? Just like with anything that you want to be successful in, there's things that you have to do in order to reproduce the the successful part of it. You know, if you're gonna be a mathematician, then you got to do the numbers. You got to do math puzzles for fun. You know, if you're gonna be a literary scholar, you have to both read and write just because, and you have to start absorbing other people's readings. So likewise with religion, right? I know people like to hate on religion and they like to hate religion and talk down on religion, but honestly, while religion does have flaws, just like everything else, right? Just like everything else good. Just like there's disciplines that when abused and misappropriated has flaws to it. Something like martial arts, right? Martial arts is supposed to be good for the mind, body, and soul. But if you're out there beating people ass to take their money, okay, like if you was looking like how Cobra Kai was looking in the Karate Kid one, doesn't make martial arts look too appeasing. It doesn't make martial arts look too safe. It doesn't make martial arts look too good. So again, I'm saying that there are several problems with religion, and I admit it, but it has its place in the order of people who seek spiritual enlightenment. The problem with Jay Navi's approach is that it is just purely religious. There's no connection, right? Like when you hear him talking, like I'm talking to y'all hear the inflection, y'all hear the emphasis, but y'all also hear me say stuff where I could laugh. Y'all also see me have moments where, I could falter, where even though I'm confident in what it is I'm talking about, you can see that I'm trying to make sure that y'all can receive it, because I could talk about certain things and concepts all night long, but if y'all don't get it and y'all don't receive it, then what was the point of me sitting here having that conversation? Like that's what I focus on calling these episodes. It's not just a podcast, it's not just content, it's a conversation. So if he called himself preaching or giving a sermon or giving an admonition, whatever it is, when you hear him talk, you don't hear the attempt to make connection. All you hear is lecture. All you hear is condescending. All you hear is you're flawed, you're wrong, you're flawed, you're wrong, you're flawed, you're wrong. And I'm here to let you guys know that so that you can repent and you can find God today. You can find Jesus today. And I'm telling you, that level of approach to spirituality or religion is a flawed one. It's piss poor. It's piss poor because, again, it removes the love, it removes the connection. Again, not to turn this into a Bible study, but in one of his previous lives, he read off the fruits of wrath, right? And then he just continued the scripture with the fruits of the spirit. All throughout the Bible, a repeated theme, especially in the New Testament. A repeated theme is love, 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 love thy neighbor as thyself. The greatest commandment I give thee is love. You know what I'm saying? Love is a fruit of the spirit. Long suffering, patient. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is, love is, love is. Right? Where did where did you hear the love in his conversation? Go look at any of the lives. You don't get it. You don't get it there, right? And that's because he's so locked in to the mission of the building is on fire. So let me save it. Now, I'm not going to condemn this man to say he's crazy or he's had a psychotic break, because it could be he had a spiritual awakening in the quiet times of not being able to play basketball, in a time where the only voices he could hear was what, where whatever voices in his head was louder, whether it was his voices, whether it was the devil's voice, whether it was God's voice. Now he can hear them clearly because he doesn't have the distractions of having to run a pick and roll, and having to find out whether or not he's going to play the next game, because he already knows he's injured. He already knows he's not playing. You know what I'm saying? He already knows the new part of his job at this point was supposed to be rehabbing and working on getting well, and that just reobtaining his health, and everything else was supposed to come after. Um, so that's that part of it, right? And I didn't think this would take up the whole night, but I guess kind of trying to be fair to him and still have the conversation is going to end up taking. I'm probably going to end up renaming this episode, because it's going to end up taking up more of the conversation than I thought. Um, the other part is the other part of this is that I kind of really want to get to, right? Is what everybody's reacting to. Whether it's the specific part about him calling out Steph Curry, saying he's not a real Christian, whether it's the part where he mentions the LGBTQ and calls out the NBA for Pride Night, or celebrate Pride Day, or whatever it is, the function and stuff like that, and everybody's having a conversation about free speech. Okay, I want to say this, and I'm gonna end up saying it again before I close this out tonight. Freedom of speech is real. But freedom of speech does not remove you from, it does not come with freedom of consequence. Freedom of speech does not come with freedom of consequence, or freedom from consequence. Okay, I'm gonna say this again before the night is out, after I finish kind of wrapping this up. But that part, broski, wait to jump in here, bro. Appreciate you. But yeah, so everybody, he himself included, right? He's like, well, how did I get fired? Kind of like Smokey getting fired on his day off. He's like, how did I get fired when people are saying this and people are doing that and people are doing this and people are doing that? And you got a bunch of the fake Christians, and you got I'm calling y'all out. There's a bunch of the fake Christians. It's a bunch of the dopes that's sitting here falling for some of these, goofy behind mega pastors, and some of the people who are just flat out misinformed, right? Like, some people just did not know better. And they just came up being taught what their mom was taught, what their grandma was taught, and they just go along with it. They don't do enough, research on their own. Again, these are the people who are steeped in religion and religious concepts, right? Principles, but they don't have the connection. You are so worried about the battle of, the LGBTQs, not being allowed to do this, and them being like, you hype that up like that's the biggest sin. Man, listen to me. Personally, y'all don't hear me having conversations about that, because out of all the things, out of all the sins that there exist in earth, there are dangerous sins that have far more to do with what happens to other people, as opposed to who you want to sleep with. You wanting to sleep with someone of the same sex does not damage my life like murder does. It does not damage my life like theft does. It does not damage my life like corruption does. You understand what I'm saying to you? Do I think that there are some problems with the community itself? Yeah. Yeah. But find me a community that doesn't have any problems with it. Find me any group or community of people that has no problems with it, that has no bullshit with them. that doesn't do anything wrong. I'll come back next week. No, you need to hurry up and try to do it tonight. I'll come back next week. Y'all can bring that back up next week to start the episode. I'll give you some time. I'll give you some time. That being said, my fight is not to, put my foot on the back of the necks of the LGBTQ or to call them out or to do this and that and the other. No, it's really not. It's really not. As long as what they're doing doesn't impact what I'm doing, you're not going to hear me bring them up. Plain and simple. Not in any way where I have to critique them. This is what else I was going to get to. Tommy girl said the Bible tells us that we are not to publicly call out or cause harm to our brother. The way he went down the line calling out his brothers in Christ without talking to them as instructed is harmful. That's what I was going to get to next. So let me finish this part real quick, because everybody jumped on his bandwagon, right? Because their whole thing is, well, if he was saying this and he's giving up the gospel, and he said it himself, why is he being punished for preaching the gospel? First of all, the gospel, what does that mean? Good news. Again, I refer to what I said earlier. In all of his lives, where do you get the sense that he's giving good news? When I give good news, I'm smiling. My energy is up. It is transferable. It is contagious. You didn't get that from him. Because instead of good news, he was just sitting there like, turn away from your wicked ways now. Like grabbing you and shaking you instead of enveloping you in love. Like, and he even spoke on judgment completely wrong. Completely wrong. Because he was saying that he was being called out for judging people. And he was like, he said that judgment is that we were given mouths to make judgments. No, we were given brain. We were given a brain to make judgment calls. We were given a brain to be able to understand and discern. We were given a brain, not a mouth to make judgments. We were not given a mouth to judge people, sir. That is completely incorrect. The scripture itself said, judge not lest ye be judged. That's clear. That's clear. I didn't have to ad-lib that. That is how it goes. There's even parts of scriptures that tells you the word they use is mote in King James, but another scripture, probably like in NIV, you'll see the word beam, like as in a piece of wood, and they will tell you, move it out of your eye, right? Before, if they'll tell you, move the beam out of your eye before you try to get the mote, which is, mote, that sleep boogie that be in the corner. Yeah, get the beam. You know what a beam is? Y'all been in places. Y'all see what a structural beam is. Move that out of your eye before you go to wipe the crust out of somebody else's eye, right? That's hypocrisy. That's what judgment is. Judgment is not what we were given mouths to do. If you want to go by what the Bible said, that is not. That is just absolutely factually incorrect. Now let's go to what Tommy was saying right quick. I'm going to put it back up on screen. Because this is not even just a biblical principle. This is just a real life principle, right? If I got an issue with somebody and I go online and I discuss my issue and I call them out, even though I have ways of obtaining their personal information and talking to them directly. Y'all would say it's a nut thing to do, right? Y'all would say that was some sucker shit, right? And y'all would be right. Y'all would be absolutely right. Because that's not how you handle the NBA considers themselves a fraternity, a brotherhood, not just a place of employment. Right? So Like the same way when you first came back to Detroit while you was with Chicago, even when you weren't able to suit up to play, and all your Detroit teammates came, and what did they do? Show love. You were smiling. You were joyous in that moment, right? They was just showing you love and support, man. JR, we love you. We miss you. You know what I mean? Because they didn't decide to put you off the team. Upper management did. To you, you was one of the brothers. So what did they do? Come over and show you brotherly love, even though the team you on, they finna smack them tonight. They looking to destroy them. And whenever you step on the floor with them, they looking to cook you too. That is how it goes. But they still came over, and the first thing they did, oh man, hugs, embraces. And that's why I said I could tell the difference in the absence of joy. Running back to what I said earlier, the absence of joy and love in your communication and your speech. Because I saw how big your smile was around your brothers who you established a bond with, who the love was real with, who the support was real with. And I saw it in every single live that you have. Your demeanor is nothing like it. But again, if you go out to the public to address your folks or your brotherhood or whoever, it's one thing if it's like me, I ain't got no way to talk to Steph Curry. So if I see a problem with Steph Curry, I'm putting it out here because it's probably the only way it's going to get to Steph. You are an NBA player. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who could get the word to Steph Curry and at least attempt to speak with him if you feel as though that as your Christian brother, as your NBA brother, you feel like he misrepresenting the Christian set. You heard? He misrepresenting the set. But no, instead, oh no, he's just like the rest of them. He cussing just like the rest of them. And he claims he's again, you making judgments. You making judgments with this. Not with this, and certainly not with this. You making judgments. You just making judgments. Acting like if somebody sinned, they're not really a Christian. When the Bible itself said that no man is righteous. So again, I want to get to this other part, back to this freedom of speech thing. And I want to, if I can, because I don't want to keep y'all too long tonight. If I can, I want to bring something else. Um, I want to bring something else into the discussion um as a comparison.
Evil good.
As a
They
comparison,
call
I want to bring
Oh,
something
you
else
not your
into
butt
it.
not even that big. Oh, you not even that pretty. You not even that bad.
I want to bring something else. Let's see if I can bring my saved up on the screen. Where is my saved content? All right. Because this is also something that's currently trending, and the discussion about, what you're allowed to do on company time. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Boy, you know you wanna mingle. This is so good, I should never be single. Boy, you know you wanna mingle. This is so good, I should never be single. Love the way I throw it on the back, hands down. Put it on and make a wanna
Oh,
wipe a
you know
bitch
what?
down.
I'm bugging. I shouldn't even had that volume on. I shouldn't even had that audio on because I'm on YouTube. YouTube, don't violate me. Don't cut my feed because I had that on YouTube. Please don't. Please don't. I do not own the rights to that music. Life Be Life and does not own the rights to that music. But okay. So this is Chick-fil-A employees um doing a viral trend. It's after work, it's off hours. You can see in the background the tables are up. There's no customers being served. They just having fun at Chick-fil-A, right? Just having some fun. There's nothing wrong with some, some workers having some fun. And I heard they all got fired. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But I showed that video as a comparison to explain, because there's people who's going to side with Jaden Ivey, who is going to rail against the NBA, make it sound like they are being the oppressors of, spiritual belief, of righteousness, of Christianity, so forth, so on. At the end of the day, and he even said himself, how could it be conduct detrimental with the team when I wasn't even with the team? Because even though you were physically not with the Chicago Bulls, where you were rehabbing, you are a member of the Chicago Bulls. Doing certain things that could hurt the Chicago Bulls, matter of fact, the NBA brand, much less the Chicago Bulls brand, is conduct detrimental to the team. There is nothing wrong with all of the employees, these employees of Chick-fil-A, deciding that they are going to do their titty bounces to a viral song on TikTok somewhere other than Chick-fil-A and outside of Chick-fil-A uniform. You represent a brand. You represent a company. There are conduct situations, and you sign a contract. By the way, I don't know too many companies that you could sign an employee contract and that one of those things it doesn't say about conduct. I don't know too many companies, but conduct matters, because basically nobody wants you making a company look like you could do whatever the hell you want at their establishment, in their uniform. You know what I'm saying? Or as a representative of the company. You, Jaden Ivey, directly called out the NBA for celebration of pride. Directly. You directly came at your employees, at your employer, and said y'all do something wrong, and y'all loudly associate with unrighteousness. And you didn't think that they could terminate you for that game? If you know they have literally, they have a whether you want to call it a marketing directive, whether you want to call it an agenda, whatever you want to call it. But if you know that the NBA as an entity supports the rights and the celebration of the LGBTQ plus community, and you go out on your on your platform while being an NBA player currently active and said, yeah, that's some bullshit. They wrong for that. Yo, they wrong for that. That is not righteous. Nope. Nope, they're wrong. They're sinning. They're sinning. What did he say in his one joint? On Judgment Day, knowing the scores of a game ain't gonna save you. The Detroit Pistons will not save you. Like, brother, you could calling out Steph Curry. Brother, you could have had your conversation about your spiritual awakening, about righteousness, about sin, about repentance. You could have done any of that without calling out anything related to the NBA. You could have did that. You could have did that, bro. And you still had your job. At worst, if they felt like maybe you offended people, like if you had just come out and said, well, I find the LGBTQ to be, I find homosexuality and things of that sort to be Sin. The Bible says it's an abomination. You would have got fined and suspended for sure. For sure. For sure. But you would have still had your job. Instead, you literally called out the organization who pays you. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. If that's your principles, you want to stand on your principles, fine. But you got to understand things come with that. I have criticized my job in my company. And when I've been willing to be fired when I publicly call them out and criticize them for things. I have been willing to say that means I have to start looking for employment elsewhere. Because I am well aware that they may consider that conduct, a breach of conduct, an act of misconduct. Freedom of speech definitely isn't freedom of consequence. Wish people would take a beat to listen to each other. You may not agree with each other, but sometimes people need to feel heard. I agree. I agree with that, girl. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I showed the Chick-fil-A video to compare it so that when people ask a question about, well, why does that mean he should be fired? Or, if there's some kind of, if Christians going to pretend like they're going to boycott the NBA over this or whatever, I stand with Jaden, hashtag I stand with Jaden coming soon, or JI. Just know y'all on the wrong side of things. when you do inevitably decide to do that, just know you'll be on the wrong side of things. Professionally, morally, ethically, all of that. Because at the end of the day, when you say you're willing to stand for certain principles and die for certain principles, that means you got to be willing to lose behind those principles. And that's why I'm not going to come out here and just call this man crazy. Because maybe he's at peace with the fact that he won't ever work in the NBA again or play in the NBA again. Maybe he's already at peace with that. But what I needed him to do is be aware beforehand. So he doesn't come out here asking, well, why is that? Why now that the man of God is bringing the gospel? Sir, because you didn't just bring the gospel. You did not just bring the gospel. You called out your employees on social media directly. You are already in a tenuous state. You just got traded to a team, which means the team that drafted you already gave up on you. The management of the team who drafted you already gave up on you. The management of the current team you are giving you a chance. And instead of just focusing on that chance, or, because nobody's saying shut up and dribble, but find a way to communicate your issues or communicate or deliver the gospel in a way that didn't have to attack other people. Right? Why did you not come with the gospel as means to uplift? Like he kept saying, oh, well, God came so that, he can save you. He can save you. He can save you. But all you were talking about is basically like you're the bulk of your platform is the wages of sin is death, as opposed to, Jesus came so that no man would be lost. Like, bruh, you lost the plot. You lost the plot, man. So anybody who agrees with him, I could just flat out say you're wrong. Like, it's not my opinion. You're wrong. He violated company policy. Just like if all them girls and the boy get fired from Chick-fil-A for that video, they deserve it. They deserve it. Because Chick-fil-A is a brand. And a brand centered around a specific ideology. It doesn't mean that everybody there has to be perfect. It doesn't even mean that you have to be a Christian to work there. but you're not gonna make the company look crazy in their uniform. Titty bouncing in a Chick-fil-A uniform in front of a camera is it's unconscionably stupid. Y'all had y'all fun. Y'all viral. People that may not know your names, but they ain't you the girl who was throwing them teddies in the Chick-fil-A uniform? Yeah. No, my job is not hiring. No, I'm not. No, I can't put in a good word for you at my gig. I see the kind of decisions you make. And he pretty much did the same thing. He pretty much did the same thing. I know my company represents this. I know they support that, but fuck that because I want to do what I want to do on camera. I want to have my moment on camera. So much so that even while the ball was on the plane, and you can hear clear as day when you watch that video, clear as day, you can hear, please put your phone on airplane mode. Not him. He's busy still running alive, calling out Steph Curry, calling out this, calling out that, to the point where now they got to come over to him and tell him to turn it off. Now, he wasn't belligerent or surly, but he was kind of like looking confused. And it's like, you're that locked into this as opposed to having an awareness of where you are. That's what makes you look crazy, bro. That's why people aren't able to take you seriously. And that's what makes you look crazy. Also, breaking such a rule is a plane telling you to put your phone in airplane mode so that it doesn't interfere with what's going on with the pilots. That is certainly not of God, sir. It is certainly not. I just had Chrissy said, I just had a training at my job that about what was acceptable to post, like and share on social media about the company I work for. He's in the NBA and he thought he was exempt. Yes, he did. It's crazy. It is crazy. Like, first of all, we saw what happened with Kyrie Irving not too long ago. And that was just for him sharing the link of something. So then you thought you could do this? If nothing else, look at the already established precedent for your company. So, like you said, Chris, he thought he was exempt for what? When you represent a brand that is 24 hours a day, and if that brand is conflict of personal beliefs, remove yourself, but do it wisely. I'm not even going to say every company is 24 is 24 hours a day, because I've worked for certain companies, whether it was me working for security, whether it was me being an AmeriCorps member, that like when I'm not in AmeriCorps gear, I could do what I want. I could go, I could go participate in rallies. I could go, you know what I'm saying, be part of marches. I could be the activist that I am and all that kind of stuff, as long as it's not on company time and I don't have the company gear on, even with my current job, my current employer. They will give us time, like when the elections come out, they give us paid time to go vote, but we are not allowed to publicly endorse. We are not, and don't get me wrong, people do it anyway, but if they want to hem you up about it, they can. Like, you can't go be at no rally with your badge on during company time. You can't say I'm gonna take, I'm gonna take my break. No, man, like, you gotta be clocked out. You have to be clocked out. If you're an AmeriCorps member, you have to be out of uniform. It's so serious being an AmeriCorps member that when you have the uniform on, if you were catching public transportation, like in Philly, if you was catching SEPTA, they expect you to get up and give up your seat. Like that's an expectation. It's not a kindness, it's not chivalry, it's not, no, it's literally that is part of what the job expects of you. You are not supposed to be seen cussing up and down while wearing AmeriCorps gear. Somebody could literally report you. And and I get what you're saying in terms of in the NBA, you represent on the field and off. Yes. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But there are still certain things that you are allowed to because it's still personal that you're allowed to get away with. But to directly attack your employer and then wonder, well, dang, why they fire me, bro? Why they let me go, bro? Boy, that's what they, that's somebody need to clip him and then do the Tony Allen joint. Boy, we got Rashad McCants, this out the butt. Because you can't be serious. You cannot be serious, JI. You can't be serious. You cannot be serious. Like I said, that's why I included the post of the Chick-fil-A members doing that. And if they all get fired, like I heard they all got fired, it makes perfect sense. You cannot directly trample on what your company sets out as their brand, as their persona, and then think that they're gonna still employ you. You can't come to Life Be Life and where I'm saying I'm not doing this and you do that, and then I'll still have you on air. Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? So all in all, like I said, I didn't intend for just reacting to this particular video to be the whole discussion. But that's just kind of where it led tonight, y'all. I hope that y'all got something out of it. Whether you agree with me or whether you disagree with me, whether you feel like I missed, if you think I missed something important, please, after this video is no longer live, drop it in the comments. If you are not already subscribed, please subscribe because you love it here. You love it here. And I love having you here. So I want you to be able to come back. Click that bell to get your notifications so that you know every time I'm on, y'all can come on to the live chat and get it popping. As always, I will post a link on Facebook so that you guys can join the live chat. But turn them notifications on, make sure to select it for all so that everything I post, y'all can see and be aware of. Of course, if you liked it, like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. And then leave me some comments as to why you disliked it. And of course, it would do me a great solid if you would share this with someone. If you're in a group where you think this conversation applies, please post it to the group if you're allowed. If you got a friend, send it to a friend. Somebody who you have conversations with at work, send it to them. But definitely, it does me a great help if you like, comment, and share. But certainly subscribe. I was down to 139. I'm back to 140. Hey, let's give it back up. Let's give it up. Let's give it up for getting back right. We 10 short of last year's goal of 150. This year's goal is 250. But I would love to hit last year's goal before, pushing to hit this year's goal. So let's get 10 more. It's April. I definitely believe that between sharing this content, we could get 10 more subscribers, man. I appreciate everybody who was in the chat. My Gail, my best friend, Krista, I call her, heard you say Christy. That's why I said Krista. My other bestie, my Infinity Stones. All my Infinity Stones was in the chat. Keish, Tommy, and Krista was all in the chat. My bro Russ, he was in the chat as well. I know there's people who were watching that episode but didn't comment. So shout out to y'all as well, everybody who was, watching the episode live. And shout out to just every one of the lifers. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. As always, as I always say, be smart, be smart. Okay, don't be Jay Navi. Don't get yourself fired like that. Okay. Be smart, be respectful, be patient, be kind to as many people as you possibly can. I know some people's gonna make that impossible, and that's fine. But make sure to be kind to yourself. Take the time out every single day. I don't care whether it's 5, 10, 15 minutes to be kind to yourselves, because you cannot pour out of an empty cup. Thank you for rocking with me this Thursday. You could have been anywhere else, but you came back to rock with the lifer. Uh yeah. Attacking your employer and not expecting backlash is crazy. And discussion in community is certainly essential. That's the last thing I'll put up as we sign out. And I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I'ma see y'all next Thursday, God willing, 9 p.m. And hey man, be safe, stay dangerous, take care of yourselves, and God willing, we'll be seeing each other again.